So we're going to quickly go through all of the countries in Africa. I'm going to explain how I remember them. Keep in mind that, everyone remembers things in their own way. The system might not work perfectly for you, but the most important thing, if you're wanting to memorize all the countries, is to have some system for every country. Have some way, some thing that you use to remember where it is. It could be relative to other countries. It could just be where it is in general. You'll get into all those, and then if it's weird and it doesn't really make sense, that's a good thing. That makes it a lot easier to remember, because you're like, what was that thing I was rambling on about? Oh yeah, Liberia is the ear of Africa. It's like the earlobe. So we'll get to that, and we're gonna go on into it. So starting off, I'm gonna just go through I'm using Saytera, which is a property of GeoGuessr now. So we're gonna get the countries randomly, and I think it's very helpful to memorize them in a random order as opposed to going in alphabetical or something, because then you're too reliant on that order that you remember them in. If you forget one, then you're kind of screwed. So you got to remember them in isolation. You can remember them in any order and it would still work. So I'm gonna refresh, because now it's randomized again. So in Africa, let's start with the Gambia. The Gambia is a river, and I know that it looks kind of like it's also the lips of, if Senegal is a face. I know it's really small to look at here, but if Senegal is a big old face and this is a nose, and that's the mouth. The mouth is the Gambia. The Gambia is a river, and of course rivers have mouths, so it all makes sense. That's the Gambia right over there. Egypt, very easy for me to remember. Egypt is one of those famous countries, very famous, and so you got the pyramids up here. I just kind of remember what Egypt looks like. It's just up there, it's got these flat walls. It's up very northeast in Egypt. It just makes sense. Cape Verde, this one is not as famous. Green Coast is kind of when I hear Cape Verde, I'm like, that means Green Coast. It doesn't actually mean that, but that's what I think in my head. There are less people live here, more vegetation, so it's green. Cape Verde, these little islands off the side. Sure. Nigeria. So Nigeria and Niger, I remember as basically, so if you guys know, so I use a couple countries to have them all remember together. So it all begins with this country in the middle, Chad. Chad is, if you guys remember, if you're on the internet, Chad, the internet meme Chad, very cool guy. He is just the coolest guy you could be is Chad. But Chad actually has a resemblance with a famous cartoon character from the Wild Thornberrys. In the Wild Thornberrys, there's this guy named Nigel Thornberry, and I want to just do a comparison. Nigel Thornberry looks pretty similar to the outline of Chad. So I just do a little back and forth here. You can see the nose kind of happening here, and then the weird mouth kind of coming back in, or a chin. I guess it could be a chin. So Chad, this character, his actual name is Nigel, and Nigel, the L is one letter away from Niger instead of Nigel. And so Nigeria is the lower part. They're all connected basically. So Nigeria is kind of the island. It's got the coastal version of Nigel, who's a Chad, and Chad is in a car we'll get to later. Djibouti, obviously this one is kind of fun to say. It sounds like it has booty in the name. So DJ Booty, I know that it's really, really small. It's a small booty. And it's way over here. I remember in conjunction with Eritrea, because it's a reaching for Djibouti, basically, is how I remember it there. Burkina Faso, this one gave me some trouble, because there's nothing in the name that immediately makes me think oh, Burkina Faso. This shape, it kind of mirrors this Guinea here. So this is Guinea, looks like a guinea pig. This is Sierra, a person whose hair looks like a guinea pig. And then looking at in the mirror, the mirror version of the guinea pig is Burkina Faso. Maybe that's the name of the guinea pig, but in the mirror. So there you go. That's how I remember it. Algeria is just this big old, it's the largest country in Africa, fun fact, of all the countries in Africa. It's the largest one way over here, Algeria. And Al is just, you know, Big Al. He's super big, he's way over there. Mali, I kind of think of, when I say it in my head, I say Mali. And this, it kind of looks like this in the, so if you look at this is Mali right here. And the country kind of has a backwards L. So Mali, if you really over enunciate the L, Mali, then you think of the L shape, at least I do. And then Malawi, I know these are kind of confusing. Yeah, we got Malawi here. Malawi, it's kind of hard to remember. It's like, okay, where is Malawi? Malawi. If you think of we, if you really over enunciate the we sound, like you're sliding down a slip and slide, for example, and then you go right on over here. Look at this country. That looks like a slip and slide. This is like if you were to go down a slide. This is the most slide-shaped country, and it's right next to this big body of water too. So very fun. Malawi. Eswatini is it kind of sounds like martini in my head, but then I immediately think of like an olive that you put in the martini. And olives have that little dot in them. And also, so it's like, you know, one of these tiny little circles maybe looks like an olive. And then these tiny little, you know, these two can be interchangeable. It's like, oh no, there are two down here that are really small and circular. Well, one of them is a little teenier, and that one is Eswatini. So there you go. Morocco, I think of as a place where people will go. It's like European people who will they'll come to Morocco and they'll get their rugs and then they'll leave. And they go, how they leave and come, it's through this little stretch of land way up here. It connects to Europe. So Morocco's over there, and that's how they get their rugs. That's how I remember it, at least. Somalia, they have some pirates over here. Somalian pirates are kind of an issue, and honestly, this country is like a pretty aggressive shape. It looks pretty sharp. It looks kind of like a hook, like a pirate hook. Guinea-Bissau, I just kind of think of it as like a special Guinea, an extra special Guinea, and we know Guinea is over here because that's the guinea pig. Looks like a guinea pig, and then it kind of functions also as the chin. In my head, I'm pretending that Bissau means chin. Okay, and so chin, a guinea chin for that shape, that face, that Senegal would be right there. That would be the chin. Eritrea, it kind of sounds like reach in a way, and they're reaching for Djibouti. So Eritrea is right over there. It's also east and starts with an E. So that's another way to remember it. None of these are very helpful. Again, they're not based on anything other than weird memory tricks. But that's how you got to do it. Lesotho, this one I remember because of GeoGuessr. The way you can see Lesotho on GeoGuessr is it's like a lot of plateau shapes. And I kind of, when I'm looking at the map here, I pretend that it's a big old plateau kind of sticking up from South Africa. So that's how I remember it there. And then Sierra Leone. So remember, Sierra is the name of a person. I met people named Sierra before. And this kind of country over here looks kind of like a face, perhaps. And then her hair, Sierra's hair, it looks like a guinea pig. She's having a rough hair day. But that's Sierra. She's all alone over there. South Sudan is, so this is Sudan. And then below Sudan is South Sudan. So I remember Sudan as just being right next to Egypt, basically. Because Sudan, there's a lot of Sudan has the desert in it. And so I kind of think of Sudan and desert kind of are similar or closely matched in my head. And so I'm like, okay, Sudan, Egypt is also very sandy. So there's a very sandy area up here. Sudan has a lot of it. And then South Sudan, just right below it. Boom, you got it. So Gabon, it kind of looks like some chewed up gum. So maybe if you had a gum in your mouth and you needed to gab on, continue to talk, you need to take the gum out and stick it somewhere. And it would be right here. Western Sahara, super easy, as far west as you can go, and it's like just right up here. It's like a weird borders because it's just desert. So I, in my head, say Benin, which obviously is not how you'd pronounce it, but it's because this country, so these two countries here kind of look similar, only this one has a really big growth on it, but the growth is Benin. So that's how I remember it there. Cameroon, I know as the armpit of Africa. So if Africa is kind of like, you know, this is like a limb, and this is maybe like the shoulder, chest area, the armpit's right here. And so we think of like Cameroon, maybe James Cameron, a human. Cameroon is kind of similar to someone's name, Cameron. And humans have armpits, so they're the armpit of Africa. Burundi. So Burundi is, these ones are kind of hard. So Rwanda and Burundi, they kind of rhyme a little bit, or like the names of the countries sound similar. And Burundi ends with UNDI, kind of sounds like under, like undi. So it's underneath Rwanda. So that's not very helpful for you, but that's how I remember it. Sao Tome and Principe. This one is like, if I had to write, if it was like fill in the blank, it'd be kind of tricky. But if you look at the A with that little like squiggly, I'm pretty sure that's Portuguese. And so Brazil, which is like over on the other side of the Atlantic, you know, it's kind of over here. They speak Portuguese over there. So I'm just assuming that someone in Brazil, they kind of try to fly over or drive, or how do they get the boat? They boat on over to Africa, and they land on these two islands right here, and they're like, yeah, let's just name these two Sao Tome and Principe. We'll just like join those together. So those are the two islands right there, right in the middle of Africa, like kind of under the roof of it. So now we got Guinea. That is the guinea pig right here that Sierra Leone has as some hair. South Africa, super easy, just the southern point of Africa. Kenya is, I'd say it has kind of a star shape, right? So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Kenya has 5 letters and 5 points of the star. Boom. Super easy to, now you remember. And then next we have Angola. And go. So like you're kind of like hesitating and then you're saying go. So like you're kind of like hesitating and you're drawing in this part of the country. It's going down. And then you say go. And so you move over to the right really quickly. And so that's why it's kind of shooting out that way. So that's Angola right there. It's the puzzle piece country. Madagascar, beautiful film. Love the movie Madagascar. Obviously it takes place on an island with all the lemurs. So that's over here. Also, if you've played Pandemic, you know where Madagascar is. Another famous country, I would say. Niger, again, remember that's one letter away from Nigel, who is our Chad of Africa here. So he's right there. Comoros, so this is a series of islands. It's plural, so you know it ends in an S. There are a lot of different countries. It's like a couple of them. They're all in a row as well. So if you like mix them up with like, oh, maybe is this Comoros? No, because these aren't in a row. That's a cape. It's kind of in a cape shape, right? This is in a row, Comoros. So that's over there, obviously. It has to be. Next, we got Senegal over here. Remember, that's the face. This is Gambia, is the mouth, the lips. Senegal, right over there. Boom. That's how I remember it, again. Rwanda, remember we got Burundi under, and then Rwanda is on the top. I just remembered it's a smaller country, and Africa doesn't have very many small countries, so that kind of narrows it down a lot. And so remember, it's on the top of Burundi, which is under. So those two you can kind of link up and remember them together. Tanzania, I kind of think of this looking like someone's face. So they're kind of looking over to the left, and he's looking over to the left. That's his name is Tan. That's what he's called. That's his name. Democratic Republic of the Congo, long frickin' name, which means it's a really big country, and it's right in the middle. D-Rock. We're close like that, so really big as well. Ethiopia, think of rhinos. I feel like in my head, rhinoceroses live in Ethiopia. And so that kind of like has this little, that little horn right there. So we have Zimbabwe. His name is Zim. And he is like, this is his body, is South Africa. He has, you can see his two nipples are the two, you know, martini, basically, like these two circles here. And then this is his head, is Zim. That's Zim. So that's Zimbabwe. So there you go. Uganda, right next to Kenya. Again, a famous one from GeoGuessr. And then I also think, Uganda be kidding me, because usually I would get it wrong. It would be in Kenya, but it wouldn't be in... Then I would guess Uganda, and I'd be like, oh, man. Mauritius, the way I remember this one, another fun one. If you guys remember back in the, you know, the movie Madagascar, the lemurs, one of the lemurs was named Maurice. And so I just remember Mauritius. Botswana, I kind of think of as a... So remember Zim? Remember Zim, this guy who's like right here? This is his body, this is his head. He has a wing. So the swan wing that he has here is proof, it indicates that Zim is actually a swan. So this is his wing right there, Botswana. Libya, if you think of lib, it kind of like lip, or kind of like lib or lip, it kind of reminds me of like a hat. If you like have a lid on something, or it reminds me of the word lid. So the lid of Africa is Libya. And so this is kind of like this top, you know, if Africa were to be like a water bottle or like a jar or a bottle, the inside, like, you know, the lid of it would be right here, Libya. And that would be Libya right there. Togo, so is it for here or to go? So to go is just over, it's just this one line. It's not this one because that has the growth, that's benign. So it's the other thin one. It's just kind of like it's kind of like in a little takeout box, basically, is how I kind of think about it. Central African Republic, I remember it by its acronym, CAR, car, because our Chad is driving a car. And so he's kind of sticking his head out the sunroof. This is the car underneath him. Seychelles. So Seychelles, kind of, my mind first goes to she sells seashells, Seychelles. And so that's kind of like an island way off over here. You can go scuba diving here. This is in the sea, and it's basically made out of seashells because it's so small, the size of a seashell. Equatorial Guinea. So the equator literally goes like right here, and Equatorial Guinea is just this tiny little square. For some reason, there are guineas just littered around. They're like a bunch of guinea pigs littered around the world. And so Equatorial Guinea is the one that sits right directly on the equator. It's this little guy right here. Sudan, remember? It's sandy. Sandy, so it's right over here underneath Egypt. Egypt, the pyramids are built on top of sand. Mozambique looks like a sideways beak. So if you look at it sideways, it kind of looks like if there's like a duck face, this is the beak. So Mozambique. And then we've got the man himself, Chad, who's, you know, if you look at him, that's actually his name. Niger, Nigel. Mauritania. I usually will get mixed up initially with Mauritius, because Mauritius is the island. Mauritania, that Ania, is how you know it's attached to land. Mauritius is like Tius. That's like, okay, that's kind of like off on his own. It's more independent. Ania is more involved, so it's a part of land. And it's over here, kind of the other side of it. They're on like opposite sides, so that's kind of how I remember it a little bit there. Tunisia is gonna be way up here. I remember it by saying like, okay, Tunisia, tune. It's like you're tuning into a radio station, and this is the radio antenna of Africa. That's how you can do it there. Ghana, you're gonna be confused until you remember that Ghana has like, the coast is not carved out, but the Ivory Coast, which is coincidentally enough next, has this kind of like divot here, because it's like the coast is more defined. Zambia rhymes with Gambia, right? And so we have the Gambia over here, which is kind of like a mouth river shape. And so if we think of that as something that was extracted from Zambia, you can see this like kind of cut into it here. That used to be the Gambia, and it rhymes, so it's Zambia down here. Sure. Namibia. So Namibia, there's like a desert in here that's like super inhospitable. and it's this whole big coast. It's like a coastal desert. Very inhospitable, not very many people, or I don't think anyone lives on the actual desert itself. And then it kind of sounds like knee, I guess, kneecap, Namibia. Sure, that's kind of how I think of it there. Liberia, the emphasis is ear, Liberia, and so that is the earlobe of Africa. So if you think of Africa, like maybe this part is like a big ear. Or even Sierra. If we go to Sierra, you know, she has her hair and she has an ear, and that's Liberia. Republic of the Congo. Oh, it's kind of a Congo. Yes, Gazpacho, great one. Looks like it's playing a Congo. So they're kind of in a Congo line. It's in a Congo line, the Republic of the Congo. And then obviously the Democratic one, that one's bigger, more official, more country-like, more serious. If you're not Democratic, you're a little sillier, right? You're kind of being zany, you're kind of Congoing. Exactly. I like it, Gazpacho. So that's how you can get 100% accuracy with all of the countries in Africa. I'm going to play it again. We're going to go really quick, okay? So we have Sudan, Sandy. Sierra Leone is a girl named Sierra. So South Africa, very far south, super easy to find. Zim is the name of that person right there. Djibouti is being reached. The Ivory Coast has that divot right there. Burkina Faso is the guinea pig's name when it looks in the mirror. Comoros is the islands in a row, and plural, ros. Central African Republic, that's car. Chad is in a car. Mozambique looks like a beak. Libya is the lid of Africa. Uganda is this one over here, kind of, you know, related similarly to Kenya in a way. Seychelles, those ones, that's the seashells over there. Nigeria, remember, that's Nigel right here. And then IA, that's because it's on the coast. Cameroon is the armpit of Africa. Madagascar, love that movie. Botswana is the swan wing of Zim. Benin, don't worry, that growth is benign. Cape Verde is the coastal, the green coast. Eritrea is reaching for Djibouti. Mali, that L, backwards L. Angola, you're waiting and then go, right there. South Sudan is just below Sudan, which we already know where that is. Kenya is that star country right there, it's the star. Senegal is this guy over here with the mouth. Somalia, that's where the pirates are, and the book fair, I guess. Republic of the Congo, they're in the Congo line right there. Sao Tome and Principe, those are the two islands. It's two names, you got two islands, so it's easy to find right there. Togo is this little takeout box right there. Democratic Republic of the Congo, very big, easy to find. Tanzania, that's tan right here. Equatorial Guinea, it's this rectangle on the equator. Lesotho is the plateau down here. We got Rwanda, which is this tiny little one. It's infamous for some things, as we know. The Gambia, which is the river. That's also the mouth of the river is right there. Ethiopia, that's where the rhinos are. Guinea is the guinea pig on top of Sierra's head. Egypt has the pyramids, come on. Tunisia is the radio, that's tuning. Morocco, that's where all the rugs are from. That they get like shipped off to Europe basically sometimes. Ghana is this one over here. You're not gonna get it wrong, you're gonna remember. Gabon, I have to take the gum out to continue to gab on. Guinea-Bissau is the chin of Senegal. Nigel, with an R, it's right there. Eswatini, little olive down there. Malawi, sliding down the slide. Zambia, rhymes with Gambia. It has that little like stuff etched out of it, over by the Gambia. Mauritius is Maurice, that lemur. We've got Mauritania, which is where he lives, but he's going the wrong way. He lives over here, that's his house. Namibia is that desert, inhospitable. It's that weird one right here. Namibia, sure. And then Liberia is the ear of Africa. Burundi is under Rwanda. Algeria is kind of, it has an L here, kind of like Al. It looks like an Al. Come on. And then we have Chad, obviously, and the Western Sahara. So there you go. Obviously, it works perfectly for me. If you have your own way to remember it, feel free to share. But that is Africa.